Hallo und herzlich willkommen auch von meiner Seite. Ich habe heute für euch eine ganze Menge an Neuerungen und neuen Funktionen aus dem gesamten Shopware-Universum dabei. Genauer gesagt habe ich ein Update zu unseren Lösungen aus dem Enterprise-Bereich. Natürlich gibt es Neuerungen zu unserer Shopware 5, also zum Kern des Ganzen, zu unserem Kernprodukt. Und es gibt News zu Shopware ERP powered by Pickware. Beginnen möchte ich
Let me start with the Shopware Enterprise area.
Was habe ich euch da denn mitgebracht?
Now, what is it I brought along?
Einmal über Performance.
Now, first of all, I would like to talk about performance. Performance boost in the enterprise, to be more precise. There are a few novelties on B2B functionalities as well. And there is something on price handling in enterprise.
Steigen wir ein mit dem Thema Performance.
Let us start off with performance.
Hier haben wir eine ganze Reihe an Erweiterungen.
There's a whole lot of extensions we have developed. And actually, the final form will be presented to you very soon. And that will give you an opportunity to actually make sure that your enterprise functionalities be optimized and put on the utmost required level. All those tools, all those solutions have been developed together with you, and they are based on your own requests, and they're also based on requests that stemmed from the projects. So in many, many installations, we have already successfully put that into live production.
Heute einmal 4 Erweiterungen, 4 Werkzeuge.
4 extensions, 4 tools is what I'm going to present today.
Das erste, das nennt sich
So the first of them is called Cache Multiplexer. So some of you might ask the question, what is it, that Cache Multiplexer? What is it there for? What can I do with it? The whole thing becomes relevant as soon as my enterprise installations be used in a multi-server setup in a so-called cluster system. So you might have a situation where modifications are being done to the layout. Let us take that as an example. I've modified the template, and these modifications, these changes must be made visible on the front end. I need to update the cache for this purpose, and the cache multiplexer at this point takes over the control. In the back end, as usual, I can update the template cache, I can empty it, and the cache multiplexer will take over control and updates the cache on all servers, app servers that I'm using.
Das zweite fällt unter den
The second area, Primary Replica is the title here. And let me look around. A lot of you have already used or are using Shopware, and the majority amongst you is certainly using one database. Especially with highly frequented shops, when there's a lot of traffic, when a lot of things are happening on my system, the load impacting the database can be enormous. Primary Replica at this point does the splitting of database requests. So normally I have a situation, if I've got one database, there will be reading and writing accesses, and with Primary Replica I can split between reading and writing. So all the writing processes can be run on one database, and the reading process can be distributed in several databases. They can be scaled, and that helps me to better distribute the total load. The third item I brought along is Redis. What is Redis? Redis is a key value storage. Basically, it's nothing different than another database. And at this point, we have got the opportunity to use several areas from Shopware database and outsource them, so to speak, to Redis. These can be translations, these can be number circles, or the whole listing of products. The objective here is that our regular database be relieved. Now, to Redis, there is something more important to say, namely another option where we can use it. In the first case, we already heard that several servers can be used, and Shopware will then keep the HTTP cache on all these servers. And now I have a possibility to use Redis as an additional cache. The cache does not have to exist on several servers, but the HTTP cache is centrally located in Redis. So at this point, I've got a simpler administration, and it's easier to scale. It's easier than a varnish cache would do it, for example. Now, the fourth element here is JMeter. JMeter is a standard solution. This solution is used in order to run load tests, in order to test the performance of a shop, to analyze the performance of the shop, so as to see prior to online where the hooks are or where things need to be optimized. Now, we are providing you with JMeter scripts. It is not necessary for you to have an in-depth knowledge. No. You can easily install it, adjust it to your environments, and you can also make sure that your enterprise intents be tested in view of performance. And you can do it yourself. Just a sideline remark. The JMeter scripts have been used by us as well in order to set up our own Shopware performance white paper. Let us talk about B2B suites. It was roughly a year ago, at the Community Day 2017, where we presented the B2B Suite 1.0. It was actually released at the date of the Community Day 2017. Now, in the B2B area, you often have a situation where in many areas the B2B is still in the infant shoes when it comes to digitization. Our B2B suite is to give you the perfect tool to support you in processes and workflows. In recent years, we have received a lot of feedback. The B2B suite has been successfully used in quite a few projects. It's about to be implemented in even more projects. And the feedback we got from you has always been included in our developments. B2B Suite 2.0 is ready to go ahead. There are a lot of improvements and functionalities that have been included. 3 novelties are to be presented and introduced today. So, first of all, are the customer-specific item numbers. Let us take the following example. Let us say you are a buyer and you are dealing with a wholesaler who provides you with items that you need to order, and you want to reorder certain articles. And you want to use the item numbers that you have set up for your day-to-day processes and that are in your systems. And this is a solution that will be offered to your customers, and they will have the opportunity to default the item numbers, the customer-specific item numbers. Your customers can upload them by way of Excel or manually. So pick out the relevant article. A standard example is always, I need to reorder paper clips. Maybe it's a Shopware number 100, but it is LX189 in my article management system. And this is the way your customers can order in the shop. This is only a detail, but it is to show that particular those little elements are the ones that we take into consideration, deriving from your feedback, obviously. The second area has to do with rights and roles. The B2B Suite, obviously, right from the outset, had to be able to deal with that topic of rights and roles and their administration. And we were able to cope with it. Nevertheless, we put it on the test bench once again, and we asked ourselves, can we make it more transparent? Can we simplify things even more? And our answer was hierarchies. Hierarchies have to be looked into. So from B2B Suite 2.0, there will be the possibility to map the whole thing by way of hierarchies. Now you've got the functionality here, namely your corporate structure, your organizational chart can be mapped, transferred on a one-to-one basis into the B2B Suite. So it's like a genealogy tree, and you can actually use drag and drop in order to shift certain departments or divisions. We use the example of Shopware, research and development as a division. Product development is the one that's attached below, and then below the developer teams. And in a very transparent way, we were able to distribute roles and functionalities and link them up with the different teams. Next topic are the RFQs. Now with the version 2.0, you will be provided with a general RFQ management in the B2B Suite. It's combined with roles and responsibilities and rights, of course. And what does it look like? I brought along this example. We've got our Sarah, who's working in the procurement department. So she's to reorder working material at short notice for a project, and we are missing 25 packages of bolts, and she has to reorder them. Now with a wholesaler, the B2B Suite is being used. The articles can be placed in the trolley or the basket, and things become more interesting, because from her structure for rights and roles, we have a situation she can only order up to a limit of 300 euros. There's a hint up there on the page. The regular workflow would be ask for release. Then the superior would be addressed to in the hierarchy on top, and he would have to release the whole thing. She can actually save this click, and all the requests from the basket would be transferred into the offer function. She can also enter the discount. It's a global discount that's possible. She can also send along information. Now, the fact that she has to stick with the 300 euros is still the limit, otherwise it would have to be released by the boss. And at this point, the request in this workflow would be finished. So we change over to administration. What's the situation with the shop manager? In the offer overview, the person will say, okay, there's a new offer I received. We'll open it, then we'll go into the details, and on the right-hand side, you see that there's also a comment that was sent by the buyer, Sarah. All the changes, whatever has been modified with the offer or any communication will be logged in. At any point in time, I've got a total overview of the history. Now, the offer is okay. I can give the green light, I can send a message back, offer accepted, and then the shop manager would then have ticked it off. Sarah, in the front end, does see the information. She also sees the acknowledgement, and she will once again check the framework data, will see that it matches, and can then give her green light, and everything will be transferred to the checkout. So she's got a possibility now, since she's below the threshold, she can directly release that order. Now that was just one example that gives you an insight into the potential workflow. Let us talk about the third area that I brought along from the enterprise universe, that's price handling. As I said, we took into consideration your feedback, and we heard from you that, especially with regard to the management and handling of prices, you would wish for more flexibility, more functionalities. So more functionalities that go beyond the standard that so far has been provided by Shopware. And once again, I would like to illustrate things by way of an example. Let's say you're running a B2B shop. And now you want to make a difference between your new customers, smaller customers, and your key accounts and wholesalers that purchase from you. And they probably get different terms and conditions and volume-specific prices, etc. So you want to make this difference. It's been possible so far by creating different customer groups. But obviously, this is a bit more complex, a bit more cumbersome to manage the whole thing and to enter all the customer accounts, etc. So we thought we could simplify things. And as an answer, we created a totally new extension, something that gives you a better and more detailed price handling opportunity. So we were able to use our experience from the new Shopware systems. And to stay with the example I just mentioned, we want to simplify things because we want to differentiate between the new customers and the regular customers. This is something we can do on the basis of the standard scope already by dividing it into customer streams. On the left-hand side, we do not need the customer groups anymore. We can use criteria we've been previously defining and can make sure that all the customers are distributed to streams in a more dynamic way. The customer streams, and that's new, can be merged to the price conditions of the new price handling. So you've got an option now to have the whole process automated. There is no assignment of customer groups that is required anymore because on the basis of the criteria, you can actually match the price conditions to the individual customer groups. This is only a tiny example in order to make clearer what we have done.
The new solution can provide even more than that. We have a very flexible allocation of prices. Prices can be determined individually by customer group, or as you just saw, in customer streams. And all of that can also be done for a limited period only. If you have certain terms and conditions, you can also equip that with time limits or until a certain date. Another feature is that this also works with restrictions and conditions. You can have several elements, and if they all apply, then certain terms and conditions are met and can trigger the right price. So if it needs to be delivered to Germany and the currency is dollars, then you always have $100 as a price. So it's a very flexible tool for pricing. Apart from that, you can also fix gross prices. A standard shop in Shopware has gross prices in the database. If you sell to a different country with other tax rates, and that needs to be changed. And here you can say, hey, the end price for the customer, $19.95, is for Germany, but it is the same price if somebody buys it in Austria. You can define staggered prices also and have volume discounts. And for the management, it is very important to know that all this is equipped and features an API. So everything can be controlled via the API. Let's summarize what I said so far. We have extensions of the software that help you optimize the shop for large traffic. We have the B2B Suite about to be launched with a complete offer management. And there's also a completely new solution with which you can handle prices at a much deeper level. And let me point out here that the price handling is available as a beta version. If you're interested, if you'd like to play around with it a little bit, just contact us. Now, let's look at the entire universe, our ecosystem, because at the end I'd like to talk about Shopware 5, our core product. To start with, I'd like to look back briefly on everything that's happened since the last Community Day. We had Hello Human, which was our guiding motto. It's not only a motto to us, it's even a mindset, a way we think. And that's something we always keep in the back of our minds when we develop new features. So in the current Shopware release 5.4, released in February, we looked at features that you might need. And we looked at variants, because we received tickets in our issue tracker, so those that were rated highest indicated that you wanted to deal with different variants. So certain variants need to be picked out and treated differently, special handling, and we thought about the developers amongst you. If you need complete composer support or the blue-green development deployment. In the blue-green deployment, that's a feature that's used for cluster systems. So if you want to update the software without any risks, you can do that on just one server. And Shopware, as of version 5.4, can work with 2 different versions on one updated database. So if something is wrong, you can switch between the 2 versions. But we also thought of those of you making templates. Flexible template handling is now possible. So if you start with a layout on the green field, and if you want to use a theme, if you want to use part of it, or do you really want to start from scratch, that's now possible. And towards 5.5, we also thought about things that the product could need, that make it even more perfect and that you need. So we get a lot of feedback from you, and we try to respond as much as possible to that and put it onto our roadmap. And for that reason, I can now show you novelties in the field of technology and performance. I also have news on internationalization. And there's a completely new feature, which we call Shopware BI, Business Intelligence. So let's start with technology and performance. So generally speaking, we can say that we looked at our source code, we optimized it as far as possible. There were deprecations, things that have become obsolete were removed. We cleaned up our source code, and we also looked at our different libraries. And the Symfony framework was updated, jQuery was updated, and brand new, we now switched over to Elasticsearch 6, so we had 5.5 and now it's 6. So Elasticsearch is something I'd like to explain in more detail. Stefan already mentioned it briefly. The implementation of Elasticsearch so far made sure that it was really performant in the front end of Shopware, with a lot of data was handled perfectly. But in the back end, on the other hand, the more information, the more items you had, the modules slowed down, because in the back end, we were not using this Elasticsearch. And in 5.5 now this has changed, because all large entities, from orders by customers to transactions, everywhere where you need information, you use this Elasticsearch module. And we did that with 200,000 customer records. you can see on the right hand there's hardly any time passing, so Elasticsearch is much faster than MySQL. So as of 5.5, Shopware 5.5, there's no more restriction between front end and back end, because you can use Elasticsearch in the front and back end. Now, talking about performance. Let's have a look at performance in the front end. In Shopware, there's a lot we can cache. So with detailed product pages, shopping worlds, generally speaking, things where very little data has to be live. So on content pages, you can cache quite a lot of information. But there's also one part where you need live information, where you can't cache the information. And in both areas, the cacheable and the live part have some novelties I can show you. Now let's have a look at the cacheable elements. What have we optimized in this respect in 5.5? Well, the time-controlled update. Most of you will know it. So far, when you have a promotion, some special activity or a shopping world that needs to be available at a particular point in time, then you had to either circumvent the cache or install it differently so that at that point in time the information was displayed immediately. And we changed that in the cache. Now with the new version, we can set the data individually and the time frames that can be stored here. So the Shopware cache knows that at a certain point in time, things need to be updated. And that works without cron job. It happens automatically, so you don't have to look after that. But Shopware does, with the information I provided, the things it's supposed to do and updates everything. In the cache warm-ups, we also have a few optimizations. On the one hand, we can set even more parameters. We can hold them ready, more information. On the detailed page, for example, all the variants can be made available, so they can all be warmed up at the same time. And all that can also be prioritized. So important pages of your shop can be warmed up first. A category page or the page attracting most visitors. So when the customer comes to the site, the customers don't wake up any cold pages. They always have a performant front end they see. And another novelty is that we can also warm up pages in parallel. So from the console or from the back end, we can say how many processes of the cache have to run in parallel. We had a stack approach in the past, but now with the new version, we can say instead of just one, you can have two warm-ups. Two caches are then warmed up, and it's twice as fast. The next topic is our sitemap cache. And in this example, it's XML, because so far the XML is delivered live. So if the Google crawler passes by, wants to get the information, they look at the site map, and Shopware reflects all information live. And here we implemented a caching function that can also be triggered via cron job, and the load on the database is similar to 0, because you can say how frequently this page is updated, and as soon as the crawler crawls by, there's no problem with the database. And we also have a splitting approach here, because for Google, up to 50,000 URLs per sitemap can be used. And Shopware here has an automatic splitting. If you have a larger shop more items, then the sitemap is broken down to an adequate size. So this much on the cacheable update. Now on the part where we need live information, and here we're talking about our shopping cart, for example. If there's a lot of traffic, where a lot of items, which in the B2B area often happens, this can be a bottleneck. And this is why we said that in our shopping cart, with a view to performance, needs to be revised. So we had a closer look at it and tried to find out what we can optimize. And well, yes, we did find something. We were able to refactor quite a few things, and with very large shopping carts, we were able to improve our speed 4 times. So the calculation, everything you get back, even with very large shopping carts, we were able to increase the speed 4 times. This much on technology and performance. Now the next topic will be the internationalization. What have we implemented here and what's still on our roadmap? Now, with a view to internationalization and selling with shopware beyond national borders, well, there are always new requirements that we as shop owners need to handle, but the shop system, the software, also needs to be able to perform to the standards of that other country. So this is why we looked at the topic from the point of view of a shopping cart. We have not only changed the performance here, we also found a new way of calculating. Shopware is optimized for the handling of different tax rates. So you can always calculate the right price also for other countries. So with 5.5, there's no more problem regarding taxes. So if you have only a partial tax you need to pay in one country and then the shipping fees in another country, all that has been prepared now in the software. And the next topic is categories. Just assume that you have a shop that was purely German and you now want to have more international business. So you want to offer an English version of your shop. So far the workshop was designed that you had to look at the different categories in the backend, and there is a function to duplicate the master data. And that's often used because if you want to create a sub shop, you can use that as a basis for optimizing the sub shop. But for a different language variant, that's actually not really possible or necessary. So in this field, we left the old function available, but added the possibility of translation. So you have this little globe that you already know, and all relevant content can be translated directly in the module. So that's a simplification, and the shop pages have a separate module. And you know the workflow. You have to allocate groups. You need to map them so that then Shopware knows which group to display in which language. And here we added the translation functionality as well, so you don't have to set up groups anymore. It's much clearer, better overview, and you can translate into any language you might need immediately. And last but not least, the last part that was not translatable was forms. And now you don't need to copy or duplicate them anymore. You just translate them directly. And we thought about forms, shop pages, categories. If we are now able to translate all of them, then there's an additional benefit. And that's important for SEO reasons. The href length tab in your source code, and that will be a standard in 5.5, you can have a corresponding page in the other language. So if the Google crawler comes up with the or wants to read the detailed page of my product, then there's information about where you can find the English or the French version. So for the crawler, it's important to get that information, and we provide that possibility. So duplicate content is prevented, but the different language variant can also be indicated to Google. So a very targeted way of presenting the information. Now let's look at Shopware BI. What's hidden behind that concept? Well, in our keynote, Stefan was able to show that we all have a mound of data. This is mound data. And from the data, you want to generate knowledge. And we'd like to present and prepare data for you so that you have easy access to the information. Because you want to develop new ideas based on the information so that your online shop can be optimized and improved all the time and can create more success. With Shopware 5.5, this new feature is directly on board. So you have access to new statistics, KPIs, important figures to compare yourselves against. And what that looks like in the backend will be shown now. If you go through analysis and if you open the module for the first time, you will be part of an onboarding process, a small wizard. And that's done quite quickly. There's a few FAQs, tells you what all this is about. And here, it's important, and that's the next point, that's the end of the onboarding process. You can indicate your industry. And this information is very relevant to us, because from the beginning, we can help you to find the right category for your shop. Information and statistics can be provided for your particular industry, for the field you're active in and doing business with. Now, after closing the onboarding process, you'll be welcomed like this, and you have direct access to your local data. Also statistical information that's relevant to your shop. And all this is a bit like a story. So all these statistics can be scrolled through. And this is important information, because it tells you that the information for your industry will be prepared, and that takes a couple of days. And I'll show you more details about that in a minute. You can get feedback on information that's provided in text form. Some highlights will be reflected immediately. This is quite normal information. About 185 orders per day with an average order value of 24 euros. But it can also be displayed in such a graph for sales, for visitors, for orders. And I'll give you more information on these statistics in a minute. This is another example on customers, the distribution of customers. 54% of your customers are female. And customers, Stefan presented that customers can be broken down into many more groups. So you can see immediately how the customers can be segmented. What are the age groups? Where are the most sales generated? And based on this information, it's kind of filters, it's features, and all this information can be directly transferred to a customer stream and used. So if there are customer groups you'd like to do more business with, where you'd like to push a little bit, you can inform them in a newsletter, you can provide a coupon to them, special offers that are exactly matching that age group can be prepared. And all this becomes even more exciting if you can compare. And this is what I'd like to show now. Now, after a couple of days of onboarding, we were able to gather information, and then we can provide more information and compare you to your peers. And I had 185 orders in the first chart, and now you can see what the other colleagues are doing, what is happening in your industry. So the number of orders is slightly higher, but the average basket is a bit lower. Or regular statistics here, where you can find a few new elements. In the purple graph or line, you can see the industry you are being compared to. So you can see immediately whether you perform better or less good than your peers. So the line is today's figures, and on the right side it's a bit more transparent, a forecast. So based on the previous year's data, we can create a forecast. This is a monthly sales overview, and you can forecast what roughly your sales will be by the end of the month. That also is possible for visitors. So the insights you get can be considered in your planning. So here you can see how visitors will probably develop over the week. And the dotted line, you can see the previous year's figures. So you can see the comparison to the previous year and what the industry is like in comparison, and that's for current developments. There's also obviously information on what device was used, what the industry is doing. You get information on the type of payment. Just one example, on the left hand, you have your industry, and on the right side, your own shop. So in the shop, there are 3 different payment times: PayPal, direct debit, or prepayments. And this is interesting as such. PayPal 80%, but 20% in the industry have direct transfer. And Sofortüberweisung, direct transfer, is not available in my shop. So this is something you can learn here. So in this field where I'm active, the second type of payment in terms of numbers is a direct immediate transfer. So maybe that can improve our conversion if we test this. So this could be one insight. I've got one thing. In many statistics, you have a small cogwheel on the top right, which can help you to change the layout. There's a menu, we have the forecast or the previous year, you can add that or remove it, but important is to have the widget, because all important KPIs for you can be displayed in your dashboard immediately if you like. So when you log into the backend in the morning, you can immediately see what's happening. So the most important information that's relevant to you is displayed immediately. Now let's summarize briefly. You have no costs at all. All this is free. It's completely anonymous and on a voluntary basis. You have a direct added value because you can use the forecast and the comparison to your industry. Our goal in all this is to provide you a possibility to generate new ideas. So we'd like to have new ideas, and we'd like to get your feedback, But you can also generate new ideas so you can optimize your shops further.
Das zum Shopware.
This much on Shopware 5.
Kommen wir zum nächsten Teil.
Now the next part,
Und da geht es das Thema Shopware
that's
ERP powered
Shopware
by Pickware.
ERP
Und für diesen
powered
Bereich, da habe ich
by
jetzt mal
Pickware.
Unterstützung geholt.
And for this
Denn wir
part,
können euch die
I
ganzen Neuerungen,
asked for some
neuen
support,
Funktionen
because
besser
who can
vorstellen, als der
better
Geschäftsführer von
explain
Pickware selber.
all the features and benefits than the managing director, Samuel Vogel.
Danke, Sebastian. Hi. Ich freue mich hier auf der großen Bühne.
Thanks, Sebastian.
euch, die neuen
Hi, everybody.
Punkte rund um
I'm very
Pickware
happy to be able to be on that big stage and present everything that has to do with Pickware.
mit einer Ankündigung.
Let us start with an announcement.
Das hier ist ja unser aktuelles
This is our
Produktuniversum.
current product
Wir haben
universe.
Shopware
Shopware ERP, powered by Pickware.
Pickware Mobile.
Then we've got Pickware Mobile and Pickware POS.
Die Basis ist natürlich Shopware ERP.
Now, the basis is Shopware ERP. Pickware Mobile and POS are based on the first, excuse me.
Deswegen wollen
It
wir
cannot
was
be
ändern.
easily recognized, and this is why we want to change
Das hier
something.
sind die neuen Namen
These
der
are the
beiden
new
wichtigsten Module.
names of our two most important
Shopware
modules.
WMS,
Shopware
powered by
WMS,
ist das
powered by
neue Pickware
Pickware,
Mobile.
is the new Pickware Mobile.
Das Warenmanagementsystem.
That is a
Shopware POS,
true
powered
and
by
genuine
Pickware,
management system. Then Shopware
das neue Pickware
POS is the new Pickware POS.
werden wir eine neue
In
Bezeichnung
addition,
einführen.
we will introduce new designations, namely
Pickware.
powered by Pickware will be the red thread through all our products, so that at any point in time you can recognize that this is our module and that there's a perfect match with Pickware. And some of you will probably still know,
Die alten Agenturnamen.
sorry, our old
Division
agency
GmbH.
name, Division GmbH.
Wir machen hier aber nur noch Pickware.
No, we're only doing Pickware these days. Why is there the old name still around? That will disappear. We will be Pickware GmbH as from now on. We will focus on Pickware, as we have been doing for 2 years already. And we want to underline that Pickware is the huge product, and this is the only thing we are doing. We gained and won over a lot of big retailers, 80 Pickware partners, more than 1,000 dealerships, and we want to handle all this as an agency, and we are only calling ourselves Pickware GmbH. And this is what I have already shown earlier on. We haven't only done rebranding, we have got a whole lot of new features. But we took as orientation base the requests of the audience, of the community. New dealers we want to attract, and the ones we've got already are to be optimized. Let us start with Shopware ERP powered by Pickware. This is our basis, as I said a minute ago, and this is the basis for everything. This is our material management within Shopware. Now, first thing we want to add is manual pick lists. This is something where we want to enable small retailers to enter into the world of Pickware universe. So equal backend as a document to set up a pick list for every order or several orders, and we know where the article is, at which warehouse location, where do I have to go, how much do I have to pack, etc. And only if there are a few orders per day, you can enter into that Pickware world in order to switch over to Shopware GMS. But that's still paper-based. Then we've got return management we looked into once again. In Shopware GMS we already had it, WMS we had it already, but a lot of dealers asked us, or retailers asked us to do it at the back end directly. So we took it at heart, and that will be part of it. We had already part of the return and cancellation documents in the back end, and the whole process in future will be possible in the back end. I'll have statistics, overviews, management, administration features, etc. Next feature in Shopware ERP, we've got individual label printing. Label printing was included in the former system already, but we had a look at it once again. A lot of retailers want to implement specific things, specific formats, for example, and this is what we are offering now. So you can decide, do you want to have a barcode on your label or not? Managers, it's super easy. If it's not enough, you can actually organize the whole back end, and HTL or SNS can be defaulted. Define your own formats. They will appear in the same way, the way they are supplied in backend. Every feature can be used for label printing. What's new with Shopware WMS? Shopware WMS is our warehouse management for the updating of all processes in the warehouses and dispatching areas. So, first of all, we looked at the design. We wanted to have more information to be visualized for dispatching, and we wanted to improve overview. Both things were handled. You can better decide now which kind of wood you want to pick at a very specific moment, what is the right article, and what are the most important pieces of information at that point where I'm working. So the warehouse is emphasized here, the volume, quantities are emphasized here, but you've got several pieces of information at the same time on the screen. In addition, we have got individual pick profiles. So for the bigger dealerships we can work rule-based in the back end and create pick profiles. You can access to all the data, postal code, services of the forwarding agents, quantities of articles. You can define the rules, designate them, and they will then appear in the dispatch app. You could say, for example, my DHL driver will come at 12 o'clock. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there will be another forwarding agent. So you will define a profile for DHL. And in the warehouse, you can control the workflow that prior to 12 o'clock, all the DHL parcels are be packed. And after then, if there's time, all the parcels for the forwarding agent will be packed. So it's a better control and better work processes in the warehouse. And we also looked at performance. All in all, almost each server request we had in our dispatch app was reduced by half of the time, especially for the bigger partners amongst you who bundle bigger and more packages per day. It's a considerable reduction of time. It's a time-saving effect. Shopware POS now. Our checkout system to link up with the subsidiaries in Shopware stems from the online world, because we are coming from a dispatch app, Pickware, and then connected the subsidiaries or the branch shops. But we want to have a broader basis in the future, and the traditional offline store managers who want to go online have to be taken on board as well. And this is why we looked at a few features and we implemented them already. So classical card terminals. We used to have this iNode terminal, but some of the partners want to have a bigger terminal, and we took that into consideration. That will be feasible in the future as well. Then we've made customer cards at POS possible as well. So with the label printing we mentioned a few minutes ago, we can print out the customer cards, and if the customer comes into your shop, shows his or her card, you can directly scan the barcode and you'll have access to all data. Customer account, the customer will get the discounts provided. You can look into the customer account, retrieve data, etc., etc. And then the checkout display. The iPad can be connected to the cash display. The customer knows exactly what's in the shopping trolley, what has to be paid, etc. But that's not all we have done. First of all, we want to be a bit broader. We have further modes of discounts, barcode scanners linked up, hardware, logos can also be printed on the voucher. You can also fill in a comment if the customer has mentioned an important piece of information that I want to store in the field for his customer account, etc., etc. So we want to be a bit broader and attract more people. And the topic of today's event is Beyond Horizon. So we want to look beyond our own horizon as well. This is our current user surface of Shopware POS. Now, where you can see this stems from the iPhone world. It was broadened, enlarged, and there is a lot of unused space in the middle. And this is what we want to change. And this is why I would like to welcome, together with you, the new Shopware POS interface. That is the way it's going to look like in the future. The white space will disappear, everything will be larger, so if you're at a larger distance with your iPad, you should have a click. Fast buttons will be offered in order to get easy access to all the functionalities. And if there are a lot of people at the checkout point, there can be errors, but I want to avoid that and I want to serve people much faster. All that can be seen at our booth. You probably saw our booth already. It's number P6. I hope you like our new features, also the new naming. Now, at the booth, we've got a real live store as well in order to show you what all this is about. So we built up the store. You can shop there, and also the warehouse module can be tested on our stand. And for the very first time, we have also brought along to pick up partners, Worldwide button and causation so that you can have a look at the whole world of Pickware at our stand and see what the features are like. That has brought me to the end of the presentation of novelties in Pickware, and over back to Sebastian. Thank you very much.
Ja, vielen Dank, Samuel.
Thank you very much, Samuel. With Samuel's presentation, we saw that Pickware has come up with a whole lot of novelties, also matching 5.5 as, for example, return management. We've seen update and novelties from ERP and also from the B2B universe, the B2B Suite 2.0, which is about to be launched. Just a piece of information, my colleague Jan Böhmer is a speaker on the growth stage at 5 o'clock, and he's going to talk about and present the B2B practical case. And there are a whole lot of novelties that have been implemented in the Shopware 5 line, the IPI topic, where it can have a benchmarking process, but also performance has been dealt with in this context. So once again, my information, the 5.5 is the beta version. It is immediately available. And if you have a look at it, please give us your feedback. We're asking for your feedback. It's a beta version, so you're at a very early stage at that point in time, and we take you on board because a lot of things have been newly integrated, and make good use of this opportunity because we want to take into consideration a maximum of your feedback before we come out with the final version. To conclude, I can only say I wish us all a wonderful community day here in Duisburg. Exciting topics, exciting features, excellent talks, and of course, excellent networking. Thank you very much.